Next, I would like to invite the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. You have 5 minutes.
Your Excellencies and all distinguished people that are gathered here, following on the footsteps of the first speaker, my name is Mr. Peter Obi, born in Nigeria, educated in Christ the King College, University of Nigeria and Nsukka, and subsequently have had the privilege of having very extensive trainings overseas, from London School of Economics to Harvard Graduate School, to Kellogg, to Columbia, Oxford University, Cambridge, IMD in Switzerland. I'm a businessman, I'm a trader, very successful trader. We have managed corporations locally and established a successful business in United Kingdom that is of note today. I lived there for 10 years. From there, I chaired companies in Nigeria, served in about 8 quoted companies, different companies, out of which I chaired about 3 of them in Nigeria. Became a governor of my state, served for 8 years. I've had some remarkable things that happened in my transition into politics. I was the first governor to be declared through the courts, because when I contested the election, somebody else was declared and I went to court and challenged it, and for 3 years I was declared. 6 months into being governor, I was impeached. I went to court again and challenged the rascality, and I became the second person to come back in this country as the governor from impeachment. And 5 months after that, my tenure again was terminated by an election that was not supposed to exist. And I went back to court and established the tenure of governor, which is what every governor who has disrupted a Nigerian election to date. Without me, the likes of Oshomole, Fayemi, Oriboshala, all these will be governors. It was my challenge of that rascality that made it possible for them to go to court afterwards. While as governor, I served as advisor to the president of Nigerian Finance. President Goodluck Jonathan was a member of his economic management team and was the chairman of SEC thereafter. Since after that, I've been involved. In 2019, I was vice presidential candidate to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Today, I'm contesting Labour. I believe that 2023 is a critical and a crucial year for Nigeria. The government that will be coming in will be faced with the undaunting task of bringing back Nigeria and repositioning it, because it breaks of so many daunting situations that requires immediate attention. My commitment is to ensure that will bring a government that will redirect, empower, and govern Nigeria in the way governance is expected all over the world. Thank you. Like you, I've been able to go around or also met some of those criminals as well. And based on that, I've always said consistently that the more you pull people out of poverty, the more you reduce the criminality that is in the country. And I've always argued that they are doing what they are doing because they could see the poverty in the country. In a country where those people are in government, are richer than entrepreneurs, you manufacture poverty. But if they stop me and ask me, like you said, what will I tell them? I will tell them, well, as a governor, I served a state for 8 years, and you can go to that state and see not one day did I ever borrow from any financial institution in Nigeria, and that I was not in any position or have never been invited by anybody to question about their missing money. The day I left office, I wasn't owing any contractor that have delivered this project. I wasn't owing any supplier that have delivered. I was not owing pension, gratuity, salary, or anybody. And I can say that in 3 banks in Nigeria, Access Bank, Fidelity Bank, and Diamond Bank, I left in each $50 million, over 10 billion naira for the state. So if they meet me, I'll be able to account for myself and say, I've never borrowed, I've served faithfully, and I left their money. So I'm like them. I'm as angry as they are. Now we must be able to chase out those who, where they've passed, nobody can account of what they were given. That is what we want to do. Thank you. Everybody knew what we did in community leadership. We were able to, using what we can call modern communication, using telephone and everything, to provide for every community a vigilante system that was working, provided them with vehicles, communication equipment, linking them to work with police. And you can go and see, we are the only government that had every community was provided with pickup manpower that were paid directly by government. Thank you. I don't know how to start answering. I don't think there was a question, but let me just make this point very clear. Maybe I've had an opportunity now to address one thing. When Jibril asked me a question, I didn't make a comment about what I'll answer if I was stopped by criminals. That was your question. Thank you. But let me also put it a point that when I left office by only one measure of development as at that time was Millennium Development Goals. By United Nations and Nigeria federal government, which is party I don't run by party I don't belong, I was number 1. I was number 1 in education. I was number 1 in health. I won the Bill Gates Prize. Federal government of Nigeria gave me the award for having the best road network in Nigeria. So, but that is aside. So saving money was in addition of excellent performance. You can go and verify. But that notwithstanding,
quiet in the hall.
What we are here to do today, I've said before, on the comment he made, do not vote for Peter Obi because I'm from the southeast, or because I'm an Igbo man, or because I'm a Christian, or because of any condition, or it's my turn. It's turn of Nigerian youth and women. It is nobody's turn. I want you to vote for Peter Obi because I'm qualified, because I'm competent, and I know what I can do to put this country out of the brink. That is what I'm contesting on. The office of the president and the office of the vice president is not the same. There's a commander-in-chief. The button stops at somebody's desk. He can, of course, delegate that power. That is why when the president travels, we talk about transaction. The vice president cannot is not commander-in-chief. In terms of coordination, they should work as a family. They should work together. But as president and commander-in-chief, the decision and the buck stops on my desk. I will be responsible to Nigerians. Thank you, my vice president.
Quiet in the hall, please.
Thank you, my vice president will be working very closely with me. That even the constitution have areas where he delegated the vice president to head. It didn't say he's commander-in-chief. So I'll be in charge. And I will not...
Please, no noise from the hall.
But that notwithstanding, everybody in government, like the Governor Kowa has said, has to work as a family. A family doesn't mean that you don't have a head. A family, the father is the head, but it's still a family. And they live together. So we will be a family but I'll be in charge. Well, we're not trying to take away votes from any party. Labour Party is in this election to win and serve Nigeria. Our voters were taking votes away from the traditional parties who have structures, which is structure of incompetence, structure of bad leadership, structure of criminality, looting of Nigeria, and bringing us to a level where we become a failed state. So we are saying to Nigerians, especially the younger ones, come, let's take back Nigeria and take it with people you can trust. Election, what we are selling is trust. Of all these candidates, who will you trust that can manage this country and your resources well? Mr. Jibril, what is weird is that you have 6 million people with guns outside and you have less than that. That supports the need, one, for a complete review of your security architecture, starting with increasing the personnel. Police, to the best of my knowledge, is 320,000. For a country of 200 million, it's unacceptable. If you compare with Egypt, that's 100, they are 1 million. So let's increase that to at least 1 million. And then I support issue of local government, state, 3-level policing. Thereafter, the most important thing to stop and reduce that criminality is to start pulling those people out of poverty. The more you pull people out of poverty, the more you reduce criminality. There's a lot you can have today all over Nigeria. You have 35% unemployment. With your youth, who are in their productive age, we have 60% youth unemployment. Youth unemployment. You can't have that and you have crisis. That's where the guns are domiciled. So you replace that with jobs. Replace it with employment. Replace it with entrepreneurship. You invest in your micro, small businesses where these youths are domiciled by supporting them, pulling them out of poverty. I've advocated that the goal of Nigeria in terms of physical access is your cultivated land in the north. We can't have that huge land and we have the level of poverty that we experience in the north. And I've given examples with so many countries of the world where things have worked differently. Niger State have 8 local governments, or about 7 or 8 local governments that is occupied by bandits. And they are living on 76.3 thousand square kilometers of land. It's unacceptable. Arable land that is fertile. When Netherlands, if you minus water, it's 33,000. And if you go there, their last year export of food was over 100 billion euros, which as at that time was about $120 billion. If Niger State can do just 2% of that, for the land space they have, 2.5 times their land, they will earn about $2.4 billion. Even at 650, let's leave 800 today, it's about 1.5 trillion. Imagine what Niger State will be. Those kids, those local governments will not be taken over by bandits. Fact checkers, I hope you are checking. To answer you, Mr. Taiwo, I said that police force is about 320,000. I went to the present IG of police and told him that the police force is 370, and he said to me 370,000, and he said to me, so I want you to quote him. He said to me, no, it's about 320. I'm quoting him before you fact check. You haven't reached there. For the other things that I've said, what I said is that I was first to come through the court, second to come back for impeachment, then to redefine the election segments, and was able to correct the tenure of governor, that is me. So I was first, second, first. Of all sorts, modular and ongoing ones, and then at the same time, ensure that the resources are invested in critical development areas like supporting MSMEs, education, health, and pulling people out of poverty. That's what I'm going to do in subsidy. On issue of oil theft, I've said those who are stealing oil are people in government. Because you can't steal oil. It's not something you put in your pocket. There must be a ship that will come and load it. I'm not an expert in it. But even the managing director of Nigerian Ports Authority said when the ships come into Nigeria, they remove what we used to dictate them. So can't our Navy dictate them if they remove their detention facility? So it is it's a crime we need to deal, and I assure you it will be dealt with decisively. On issue of exchange rate can be fought in two ways. One is fiscal responsibility. As long as you continue the way we are going with fiscal rascality, printing money and throwing it, by the time you remove subsidy, deal with the issue of oil theft, which will make you earn more foreign exchange. Deal with the issue, other issues, like what I said, move from consumption to production. You're able to make more money. If you export more and you're able to have more foreign currency, you manage and stabilize your foreign currency.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Peter Obi, candidate of the Labour Party.
Following what Bismarck said, he said there's a budget of 21 trillion with a 5 trillion subsidy. So by the time you remove the 5 trillion, you're down to 16. And I assure you that if you aggressively, as I intend to do, cost waste and cost of governance, because there's a lot of waste in governance that you can cut. By the time you deal with it, which will now bring that to about 14 trillion, then you do the right things. By the time you're able to tackle all loopholes of revenue leakages, including the oil theft, you're back to where you have a balanced budget. However, if there's need to borrow, I'm not against borrowing, I've always advocated it. You borrow for production. It's allowed. Every country of the world is owing, but you borrow, even those who are using, for example, like Singapore, everybody calls, is 120% of their GDP is in debt. So you borrow for production. If we borrow for production, then we would have been better off today, even servicing our debt. So I will do whatever it takes to ensure that we bring a balanced budget and strictly borrow for production, which will grow the economy and be able to pull people out of poverty. Well, let me join one question in saying that this doesn't belong to us. But however, if I take your question, everybody knows that the Labour Party is not party of money. The obedience or obedience are not controlled by money. I've never given anybody, they know that. I don't give because we want to work. Yes, we're trying to raise money within our little means to continue what we're doing because we want to work for the people. But I believe that your question is the issue of fighting corruption. And I've maintained consistently, if you want to deal with corruption index measurement, which is a critical thing in Nigeria, is failing every day, you have to look at the candidates, the character, the integrity, the competence, everything about the candidate, and ask yourself a question. All of us are coming from somewhere. Where we passed, can we go there and verify? Somebody has been governor of a state. Let's start by appointment. How many of his relations was given appointment? Go to Anambra State. Nobody from my town was a commissioner. Nobody from my town was chief of staff or anybody. Go and check it in Anambra State. Go and check. There's no piece of land allocated directly or indirectly to me or any of my siblings. Go and check whether any of their money is missing. I've challenged those agencies. Go and check Anambra State money. If it's missing, hold me responsible. So that's where you start. So we are not going to go into, if a man says, I'm going to do this, like they said, if you can manage a penny, we will give you a naira to manage. So let's check the past. People who are saying that this and that, how was their part? I've passed through parts where shared corporations and everything. Go to there and see if any of them, there's a place where they will say, Peter Obi did this or that. Even in banking, I never lent money to any of the company I was involved. You must borrow money from somewhere else. And above all, I've borrowed money locally and internationally. I can say today that by the time I left England, I have the highest credit rating any English person can have. Based on that business today, I'm still being invited. So personally, I do not get involved in that. And I have a vice who I believe is that tries on the same thing. Both of us will fight corruption because it's critical. And we'll fight it head on, where we'll bring it to a minimal, if not entirely eliminate it. Because it starts from you. If you're not stealing, your family is not stealing, those around you, you can control them, you put it in check. So I'm saying to you, we will go in there and manage the resources of the state. We've done it somewhere, and we want to do it at the center. Thank you.
Colonel Jeff Onyejebu, very quickly.
Don't call everybody. This man is ANPP now. He called it to Obi people. You see what is happening here? I won't take this. He called it to Obi people. This colonel is ANPP person now. You call it to Obi people. Stop that, please. Dino. You did. Dino, stop that. I'm taking a lot from you here. What is what? Why are you always calling me? Thank you. If you look at the first issue, which you mentioned, issue of solving the structural problem, it has to deal with the issue of whatever everybody says, issue of diversification of the economy. Let me put it on record. The Nigerian economy is well diversified. Oil, as the measure, contributes less than 10% of our GDP. But the problem is that it contributes about 50% of government revenue and about 80% of our foreign exchange earning. Our biggest contributor to our GDP today is agriculture. If you look at our about 180 trillion economy, agriculture contributes about 4 to 1 trillion, which is about 20-something% of that economy. So it is not, it's very diversified. Our trading is contributing over 15%. ICT is contributing over that. So what you need to do, the reason why we are not getting enough or it's not working is that as diversified as they are not productive. You need to increase the level of production. That is the problem. That's what I was talking about agriculture. You can have almost 60% of the arable land uncultivated, and you still, if you're able to invest on the other areas, your manufacturing today is about 9%, it should be about 15%. If you're able to invest in the land, invest in this, and they're able to contribute to export goods. Just imagine if you can feed yourself. We are 220 million. Imagine if you take 1,000 and you can feed yourself. You can move at an average of 1,000 a day. By 1 year, you would triple, you would at least get your contribution of agriculture to about 80 trillion. And that will change the dynamics. So it's a question of how do you ramp up your production? That's why Labour is saying we want to move the country from consumption to production. It is critical when you do it. In terms of how many women serving in government, I keep saying you have to go to and check example. We have assured that women and youth will be the engine of our government. And that I've shown an example of how many women who have worked with me as governor. You go and check from deputy governor, chief of staff, commissioner for finance, commissioner for education, commissioner for local government. I can go on and on, are all women. So that is given. how many women that serve in government. Issue of being commander-in-chief without having a military experience. Well, if you have checked up the known presidents that I've known all over the world, including the present Prime Minister of Britain, he doesn't have military experience. You just have to deal with the right people who have that experience, hire them, and if you're commander-in-chief, you have the political will to do the right thing, that's it. Colonel will hire you. I will make sure you do the right thing. In terms of oil theft, I've said it openly, and what I'll do everywhere. Devolution of powers to ensure resource control. I have said consistently, I'll move Nigeria from sharing formula to production formula. And I'll show it, because there's so many countries, there's so many states here that cannot continue going the way they're going. Today, we have a problem in Borno State. Borno State is 70.9 thousand square kilometers of land. That is more than Belgium, Israel put together. Yet, go and check their production in agriculture. Go and check what is happening in Borno State. There's so many things you can do with Nigeria, the vast land in the north. So, devolution of power and resource control, we will deal with, and we'll deal with it aggressively and ensure. I'm not happy with what is happening in Niger Delta. It's unacceptable. Look at what they're going through. We've exploited their oil over the years. We need to fix it. The remaining resources are used to fix Niger Delta while producing resources all over Nigeria. And every part of Nigeria can be a huge resource production center. And that's what Labour intends to do. How do we tackle the issue of IPOB, Boko Haram on all agitations? I've said repeatedly, I will dialogue with every agitator. There's nothing wrong in agitation. I will consult. Governance in democracy is about consensus. I will consult, I will dialogue, I will meet everybody. Dialogue is normal. Agitation is normal. So we will deal with everybody. We will make sure we sit down and talk and resolve issues amicably. Issue of power. Issue of power is one that we intend to tackle aggressively. First is that today, Nigeria have installed capacity today of 12,000 plus. And that, even if you produce, it cannot be wheeled, because your transmission line can only take about 6,000. And that is a problem. And your distribution infrastructure is also weak. First is to upgrade and ensure that I deal aggressively with the transmission and distribution infrastructure to be able to take what we can produce immediately, which is about 12,000. On that, top of that, is to deal with issue of ensuring that those who are in generation today are supported by making sure they get dedicated gas supply with policies that are consistent, and then start dealing with new ones that will come in, including bringing in embedded captive power, anything you can do to ensure renewable energy, to ensure that you ramp up that as quickly as possible. It can be done. We have over 100 million Nigerians without electricity. According to World Bank, it's 90 million, but for me, it's over 100 million. That is unacceptable. So you have to declare war on power. If South Africa with over 50,000 megawatts can declare emergency, we will declare war here in power. In terms of flood control is the simple. I don't know how to describe it. The reason why we have the flood situation we have today, and I thank so many governors who are intervening, including Governor Okowa, and what they are doing to manage the situation. But it's something Nigeria can manage and reduce the devastating effect by just dredging. And the silt in all these are rivers. River Niger and River Benue. By working on them, by channeling things properly, by doing dams and everything. If Nile in Egypt can maintain today the Nile and it's functional, where they say no Nile, no Egypt, and Nile is 6,000 650 kilometers long, Nigeria as a country can deal with Niger, River Niger, that is only 4,184 kilometers long, with River Benue that is 1,004. If you bring two of them together, they are still about 1,000 short of Nile, and yet Egypt can deal with it. We can deal with this too. And contracts over the years have been awarded, but people have mismanaged it, and we will deal with it. I assure you that this situation cannot arise. Even now that is the situation, I will stop everything and go and stay there. When I look at what Bayelsa is going through today, I will be living in Bayelsa as commander-in-chief with them, showing empathy, showing everything with them to show that it is a country. On issue of, I think, with all this, for me, it is a question of how do we continue to ensure that our economy is productive. And I've shown that this economy can be productive. I'm a wealth creator. And what this country needs is people who can create wealth. People who have created wealth can manage it more efficiently than allowing the country to be managed by those who have never created anything. Thank you.